Be talking about Scott Peterson and Laci Peterson. Apparently, the LA Innocence Project has some interest in the case. They want basically the courts to look at some new evidence that maybe potentially could clear Scott Peterson of the double homicide that he's been convicted of his wife and unborn son, Laci and Connor Peterson. First and foremost, Hyman, let's ask you the question. What were your thoughts when you heard that, first and foremost, that the LA Innocence Project is looking into or helping out Scott Peterson? Did you know about the case? What are your thoughts? Where were you on this?
Yeah, I read about it and I saw documentaries on it a while back, so I had to brush
Mhm.
up on it, And then, especially when I heard that the Innocence Project or LA Innocence Project gonna be, trying to appeal, and put in some new, I guess, evidence, bring in some new evidence. Um, so I was like, wow, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, especially because he's been incarcerated for over 20 years, I think.
Just about. It'll be
Right?
20 years in a couple of months.
Yeah, 20 years. So I was like, wow, like if that's, I mean, can you imagine the uproar on the
Right.
people that found them guilty from the get go?
Yeah, if he ends up being innocent, not only did he lose his family, but also, 20 plus years of his life. It would be a tragedy on its own, needless to say. I'm not sure we can go there yet. I don't know the evidence. In fact, I don't really know much of this case at all. I was actually commenting or texting with Jaime and Blue earlier about this case, and there was a point where I asked about, or the topic of concrete anchors came up. Uh,
Hmm.
I didn't even know anything about it. So I'm very fresh into it. I know the minor details of it, so we're going to go through this with y'all and go step by step. Today we're going to talk about the beginning of the case, the disappearance. We're going to listen to the 911 call and kind of go through the evidence that was there in the beginning. On Wednesday, we're going to be covering the interrogation, and we'll be listening and watching that. And then on Friday, we're going to go through some of the phone calls between Scott Peterson and Amber, his mistress that he had at the time. Big Blue, do you remember this case? Were you following it back in the time when this happened?
No, I wasn't following it back in the time when it happened. I mean, I remember the case because it was, in the news, but I wasn't a big news follower back then. I wasn't into the now, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. That's kind of the same thing with me. In fact, well, I heard about the case after he was convicted, and there was a bunch of talk that there was conspiracies there when it came to this case. There was a burglary that occurred across the street. There was apparently I think it was a couple at the time that was out there that had kidnapped some women that were pregnant and trying to take their babies. And all these things were kind of coming in at the same time. A lot of attention was at Scott Peterson, the boyfriend or husband, I'm sorry, and soon father to be. So without further ado, let's kind of break it down. Let's get into it. So it was, hold on, let me share this real quick. So this is Scott and Laci Peterson. Um, funny fact. So I was talking, and she didn't want me to say this, but I'm gonna say it. I was talking to the wife earlier today, right? And I don't know anything about the Scott Peterson case at all, right? And well, I do now because I kind of put all the information together. But this morning I didn't, and I was looking at this guy's picture, and I was like, you know, this guy, or my wife was looking at the picture of the thumbnail, and she's like, that guy kind of looks like who did she say? Ben Affleck. And I was like, I don't see Ben Affleck here. And it was one of his thinner pictures, when he was in court and whatnot. So I was like, to me, I don't know. I think he looks like Dean Cain. Remember the guy that used to play Superman?
So yeah, yeah, it does. He also looks like our old security guard from high school, Mario.
He kind of does.
Right?
And a little bit different colored hair, but yeah. And so I was like, the guy looks like Dean Cain. And she's like, nah, what was the guy? What did I say? Ben Affleck. It's Ben Affleck, right? And I was like, we'll put a poll on. We'll see who he looks like more and what people think. And then my wife goes, wasn't there a movie that they made a movie about Scott Peterson? I was like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. So she looks it up, and sure enough, guess who plays Scott Peterson in a Lifetime movie of this case?
Benny.
Dean Cain.
Dean Cain.
Benny? Oh, I was like, Ben? I thought you were talking about, okay. Sorry, my bad. Lifetime, right? You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Dean Cain comes out on a lot of
Yeah.
those type of Lifetime type movies nowadays. And so she just started laughing hysterically because it was him. I had no idea what was going on. And then she's like, look, this is who played that person. I was like, well, I guess we don't have to do a poll no more. But yeah, I thought he looked like Dean Cain and Superman as soon as I saw him. And then, yeah, so this is him. This is Laci Peterson, his wife. This is when they got married. I mean, first appearances. Do you guys think that this guy looks like somebody that could, harm his wife and unborn child?
I mean, not from the appearance, but man, behind those smiles, sometimes people have horrible, intentions. Just like Bundy had a great smile, but he did a lot of bad things.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that's true. I mean, some people you're exactly right. Some people get smitten by appearances and think that because somebody appears attractive or whatnot, that they couldn't have committed a heinous crime. And that's not all true all the time, right? And so,
yeah, since it just looks like a heavy married couple, nothing wrong with the picture to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she has a beautiful smile too.
Yeah, she does. She was born Laci Denise Rocha. She was born in Modesto, California in 1975, and she passed away there at age 27. Her parents, Denise Robert Rocha and Sharon Ruth Anderson, split up when she was just a year old, and she lived with her mother along with eventually her stepfather, Ron Gransky. And no, that's theirs. That's her parents, right? Yes.
Yeah,
this is the Roaches.
Yep.
And so these are her parents. And in fact, so what ended up happening was on December 23rd, 2002 was the last time that anybody saw or heard of Laci Peterson outside of Scott alive, right? Apparently she had called her sister that night. Earlier in that day, she went to a salon where her half sister worked, and the next day they were planning on meeting up for Christmas Eve dinner, right? And apparently Scott Peterson was supposed to, or he had been telling people that he was going to go golfing that day, but it was a little bit cold, so he decided, according to his story, that he was going to take his boat out and go fishing. All of us here, all three of us here, have had boats, and we like to fish. Does that sound like something, a random day, just kind of go out there and want to go fishing?
Not
on
cold days.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, man, if it's too cold, if he thought it was too cold for golf, I think being in the water would be a lot more, like not being on the lake would be a little bit more colder because of the wind.
Yeah, man. Especially when it gets super windy. I mean, when you're going on the boat, that the water splashes on you, and then you get all the mist just from the water, from the air. And then depending on what kind of boat you have, it has you going everywhere. It's miserable when it's windy.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not sure if it was windy or not, but there were people that saw him out there, and he was out there in the bay, and there were other people that went out there. Modesto, California, on average, the low is like in the wintertime, like 55, and the high is like 68. So it's relatively like not cold. You know what I mean? For our standards, or for most people in the United States, that Modesto, California area is that one place where it's like 70 degrees all year round. Like the summers don't get that hot, and the winters don't get that cold. You know, it's a nice weather place. My one of my brothers was stationed near there in California when he was in the military, and so I'm not familiar with the area. I haven't been there, but I've heard about it extensively. Um, so being that, 55-degree weather, that's not too cold to go out there and fish. I think that the lowest record low was like 32, something like that, like barely freezing. If it was about 55 degrees, no wind, would that be a day that you would consider going out on the lake or the bay?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if that was average there, yeah,
hmm
I would.
Yeah, as long as it's not a windy day. I still go fishing when it's cold. Don't get me wrong, but on a windy day on a boat, it's miserable, man. You're
Yeah,
spinning everywhere. Depending on what kind of boat you have, you have to have the
exactly.
anchor, and then you have to anchor bags because if not, you're just going right into whichever
How
way the direction.
Hmm.
I don't know how far Modesto is from Monterey. I assume they were close. My my brother was in Monterey, and so um, given the fact that the weather was that way in the summer or in the winter, I assumed it was the same thing as Monterey. But it could be hot in the summer. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it was 50 degrees in the wintertime, that doesn't sound very cold to me.
No, not at all.
And that's, that would be a day that I would consider. There were people out there that witnessed him out there, that saw him getting in and out of the marina. I'm not sure if there was any of those witnesses were on boats, but if they were other individuals that were taking their boats in and out of the water, that would lead you to believe that other people were also on the bay, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think a couple of the witnesses were on the dock. I think they had just barely came back in, or either going back in or going out, since it was
Mhm.
earlier in the day.
Right. So we can assume then that he wasn't like the only person. It wasn't like a crazy thing then, right? Like for instance, if somebody were to say, "Man, the bay was real bad," he was the only person going in there. That would be pretty suspicious, right?
Yeah, especially, well, I mean, from what I heard was that it was the water. It wasn't still. It was like, kind of choppy. But yeah, I guess it just depends on what kind of boat you had. Like, he had a small aluminum boat. I think it was like 14 feet boat, 14-foot boat, small
Yeah,
Yeah.
motor.
man.
Like, it wasn't big at
Yeah,
all. So like that boat in choppy weather would
it
not.
sucks.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing to be out there. And I have trouble just here in the lake when it's windy with my 20-foot bass boat. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a 20-foot aluminum flat bottom, and with a 75 Yamaha, so I had a bigger motor than he had in his. And when it got windy, it was horrible, man. It would get choppy. The water would just
Yeah.
splash you everywhere. And
Hmm.
then just like it sometimes took me 20 minutes just to be able to get the dang thing on the trailer because the wind would just blow me off to the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why me and my dad wanted to buy. He wanted to buy an aluminum boat, but I refused to let him buy one. I was like, nah, we got to get a bass boat, something fiberglass, something heavy. So we ended
Yeah.
up getting that 21 footer with the big engine. But still, like I said, yeah, when it's windy and the waves are coming, they're being choppy. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to maneuver and to drive back and everything like that. So I could just imagine if it was a choppy and an aluminum boat, a small aluminum boat like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is a picture of the boat, or a boat similar to his. I think this was a reenactment to how the boat was going to be in those type of water conditions. And so this is basically what he would have been driving that day, or boating that day. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys got a point. I mean, if it is choppy in one of these things, it is going to move around a lot. That's going to be an uncomfortable ride. Apparently, he didn't have bait or anything with him either. So I don't know what he was going to be fishing with.
I believe, I don't know if this is I believe he had like maintenance to the boat, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think supposedly he took it out to try it out.
Well, it was
not far-fetched.
it was brand new to him, right?
Yeah, boy, yeah.
Yeah, he just bought it like a month earlier.
Mm. But that was his story, apparently, that he had some maintenance done to it and he was going to try it out. So he wanted to run it.
So his story is that he got breakfast that morning, and at 9:30 he decides, or early that morning, he decides he doesn't want to go golfing. He wants to go fishing in the bay. So he goes and gets his boat, takes off around 9:30. All right. Comes back roughly around 5 p.m. His wife's not there. His dog is in the backyard with the leash on, and he decides to wash his clothes and order a pizza. Then eat said pizza before calling anybody. And the first person that he calls isn't 911, isn't the authorities. It's his in-laws, Laci's parents. Does that throw any red flags to you guys?
Maybe not the call and the pizza. I think the washing the clothes is kind of a red flag for me. But I think at that point, I think if it was me, I would be thinking, oh, she just probably went somewhere and, she's probably not answering or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But when I couldn't get, like, if I wouldn't be able to get a hold of her, and then I called her parents, and then I would probably call the authorities.
Well, I haven't been able to find it, but supposedly he did call 911 after the stepdad called 911. But I don't know how true that is. I think that's one of the things that I guess didn't come up in trial before, that maybe perhaps is going to be coming up in trial this time, that he did in fact also call authorities to report her missing that evening. So let's so he ends up coming home. Like I said, he calls his in-laws. In-laws are the ones that end up calling the police. So let's 1 second. Let's pull that up real quick. So this is going to be the 911 call. I got to turn up the sound.
How can I help? Mom to the spot. How can I help you?
Yes, my son-in-law called. He was playing golf this morning at 9:30. My daughter's been missing since this morning. She's 8 months pregnant. She took her dog for a walk in the park. The dog came home with just a leash on.
So the dog came back without your daughter?
Right.
Okay, what is your address, sister?
Well, I'm at...
Is that where she's...
So it's over at the Loma Park is where she went for the walk.
So dad's calling, not the boyfriend. Does that throw a red flag to you guys, that even after he, all right, he calls his in-laws to see if his daughter is there or his wife is there, right? I can understand that phone call. She's not answering. Maybe she went with mom. Let me call mom, see if she knows where she's at. Why isn't he the one calling 911 after that phone call that he finds out she's not there?
I don't know, man. What's more suspicious is where did the stepdad get the information about him going golfing? Was that his initial story to him instead of the fishing? And he changed it to fishing? That's pretty crazy.
No, not so much that, but up until, leading up to that week, he had been telling everybody he was going to go golfing. He had even told, I believe it was Laci's sister, that he had gotten her a gift and it was hidden at the golf course at the club there, and that he was going to go pick it up on that specific day while he was golfing. So he just completely changes everything. I mean, when you add that there was something there that he was going to pick up, and that was one of the reasons why he was going golfing that day, does that throw another red flag to you guys?
Yeah, the
me
inconsistencies
too.
of his story. Yeah,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
so far.
Let's continue to hear this.
What is Scott Lake's address? I can't remember.
What's your cell phone number, sir, in case you get disconnected?
It's 404.
Uh-huh.
Jesus, I can't believe I'm going for like 404.
Okay, so what's the address where she lives and she's missing from?
Her address is,
Is that between Encina and Edgeworth Drive?
yeah.
Okay, is that a house? What is your name?
My name is Ron. I'm her stepdad.
Okay, what is your name? Your last
Ransky.
Gransky?
Rantski. Her husband, Scott Peterson, is on way over the park.
What's your stepdaughter's name?
Scott Peterson.
No, your stepdaughter.
Laci Peterson.
Laci Peterson, right?
Peterson.
And she's white, black, Hispanic, Asian.
She's Portuguese and white.
How old is she?
She's 26.
What time did she leave the house and didn't come back?
That we don't know. We just got a call from our son-in-law that he left this morning at 9:30 to play golf. He just got home about a half hour ago. Nowhere around.
Okay.
So he said he got a call from his son-in-law that he went to go play golf. You guys heard that, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not familiar with it. I'll ask you this time. Was that ever clarified if that's what he had actually indeed told Laci's stepdad, or was that something that he had told him leading up to that day?
Yeah, well, he called them, right, to ask for her, and he told them that he was. What I'm thinking is that he kind of overlooked the fact that maybe he'd have said that he was supposed to go play golf, but he instead of went fishing. That's what I want to say. I'm not sure that's what happened.
Right.
But I'm guessing. I think the fact that his stepdaughter is missing, I think it will be a little bit more important at the time. So maybe he kind of overlooked that. But if he did say that he went golfing instead of saying, "Oh, I went fishing," then that's a big red flag, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that, changing what you did. And the other thing is too, like, and the big question is because both the bodies of Laci and Connor ended up showing up pretty close to that marina. The question is, like, why say you were there if that's where you dumped the bodies?
Yeah.
You
Somebody
know?
saw him. That's probably why.
That's what I'm thinking too. He had no choice. So, all right, let's continue this 911 tape. A couple minutes more. I'm going to back it up a little bit.
What time did she leave the house and didn't come back?
That we don't know. We just got a call from our son-in-law that he left this morning at 9:30 to play golf. He just got home about a half hour ago. Nowhere around.
Okay, so she went to walk the dog where?
Walked it in that park. That's the Modesto Park. What's that park over there with the call?
One down in Phoenix.
Yeah. Yes, it's one under Phoenix over there, by the tennis court. Okay.
That's on Encina.
Yeah, do you have a flashlight? Absolutely.
And she's 8 months pregnant, you said?
Pardon?
You said she's 8 months pregnant?
Yes, I am. Could you get a point card for me over there? Is that possible?
Is this over there at Dry Creek Park?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that over there at Dry Creek Park?
Yes, that's what it is. I don't know. I don't know. She's 8 months pregnant. There can't be that many people. She's got short black hair. She's about 5'1".
Hold on, she's 5'1"?
Yeah. Dark eyes.
Dark hair and eyes?
Yes.
So the dog came home without the leash, right?
The dog came home on the leash without her.
Now, somebody found that dog and put it, and then recognized where that dog came from and put it in their backyard. Is that not correct?
Yeah, well, the neighbor saw the dog in front of her house, and without with the leash still attached to it, so she put the dog in the backyard and closed the gate.
Okay.
And that person, oh, that lady, I can't remember her name, but I know she specifically said that it was like 10:18 in the morning.
Oh, so it was, yeah.
When she saw the dog and put it back there.
So about 45 minutes after Scott Peterson left to the bay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, we don't know what time she had left. Also, there was some reports that her curtains were closed. The curtains to the house were closed, and that was uncommon as well from the neighbors. I don't know if you had heard that. Did you hear that?
Yeah, there's certain things that there's certain things that could come out later on that we're gonna get to probably in the next podcast. So that's the second part to this. But there were several things that were kind of odd for her, like the curtains and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So dog was found out there, and then it was returned by a neighbor. So we cleared that up. Let's continue. There's only a few seconds left, maybe half a minute left.
Okay, so her husband's looking for her right now. Are you gonna stay here at that?
I'll stay here if I have to stay here.
We're gonna send an officer over there as soon as they're available. Okay, you're at right now.
Okay, good.
What's the phone number there, sir?
Okay, my house number is...
No, where you're at. Is that where you live at Markley Way? Okay.
My house.
What's your phone number? Mm-hmm. Okay, and her husband's name was?
Scott.
Scott Peterson. Do you know what he's wearing?
No, he just called me from the house. I have no idea. He's walking, he's going over there looking for it. He's not in his house.
Okay. What's her phone number there?
Her house number?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay, we'll have someone out there as soon as they're available.
let me give you the cell phone. He might have a cell phone with him.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Did he say he might have her cell phone with him or his cell phone?
I believe his.
Okay. All right. It was a little bit staticky for me. I thought so. I just wanted to double check.
Okay, we'll have someone out there as soon as they're available, Ron. Hello?
All right, so they end up sending an officer out there, and the officer ends up talking with Scott Peterson. But from what I understand is the logs indicate that after 10 minutes that officer arrived, that he was requesting homicide detectives. Does that tell you that this guy's gotten? I mean, how do you get to homicide detective from what we know so far within 10 minutes?
Yeah. So they're saying missing persons or detective. She went right away to homicide, which was crazy.
Yeah, that's the big leap.
Right. Now according to what I was been able to find was that his demeanor was suspicious. Mm-hmm. There were the house was clean, smelled like bleach, and apparently like I said, his demeanor he wasn't acting like somebody whose wife was missing. I think the bleach stuff maybe is some, it's a cause for concern, right? It's a red flag. But how somebody acts when they are dealt with trauma like that or loss, everybody acts differently. Now, obviously, if he committed this crime and that he was convicted of, his actions may be because he did commit that crime. But there has been other cases where people have not acted the way you would assume they would. In fact, there was a case that I was just watching on Netflix the other day. It was like the real life Gone Girl, where this girl gets kidnapped. Boyfriend was tied up with the zip ties, and they had blacked out goggles. She went missing for a few days. They end up starting to suspect that she had found out that guy was messing around or was talking with his ex, who they all worked with. They all worked together. And long story short, police started thinking that she'd committed the crime herself to try to frame this guy, like the movie Gone Girl. She ends up being found and goes home and real suspicious stuff. Cops don't believe him. And a couple of, I think like 10 weeks later, and also let me rephrase it. The kidnappers had emailed the lawyers as well and the families a bunch of crap that they were the kidnappers and this, that, and the third. And the cops were like, "Nah, this is fake. This is fake." And come to find out, it was one kidnapper. Like the kidnapper comes back and tries to do it in one other place and gets busted, and they end up finding evidence that links back to that girl, and it's insane.
Yeah, I was. We're watching it there when I was over there. This weekend, right?
Yeah. It was crazy, man. I ended up finishing it, and it was pretty weird, man. Have you seen it, Blue?
No, I've only seen the one that I think Ben Affleck's in the other one, right?
Ben Affleck. It's Dean Cain. I'm just kidding.
Oh no, he's talking about the Gone Girl one.
No, I know, yeah, but
I think the one you were watching is American Nightmare or something like that, right?
Yeah, American Nightmare. Yes,
I think that's what's called.
Yeah, it was actually a true story, and it's just insane. American Nightmare on Netflix, 100%. Well, anyways, let's get back to this. This is where they lived, and you know what? Let me pull up some maps real quick. All right, so this is the Peterson home right here. And she was supposed to have gone to the park where a witness did see a pregnant female with a dog. Is that not correct? They saw her with the dog?
Yeah, they saw someone with that, with her description at that park with a dog.
And this was also after 9:30 on December 24th, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, there was one guy, and I'm gonna see if I can find it. I had it earlier. There was one guy who, I guess it was in trial. He says that he contacted the detective and told him the following day on the 25th that he had seen somebody matching her on the 24th, and they really didn't even ever, follow up with him. They kind of let that go.
I think, yeah, and I think that's part of the whole thing coming up now, that they kind of neglected to follow up on a couple of witnesses that apparently witnessed her at the park with the dog after
it's not
the 10, 18 or whatever.
Right. And this is the park. This is where the entrance is. It's East La Loma Park. Yeah, but it's kind of like a green belt between these houses. And this trail goes all the way back here where it would have easy access to the Peterson house. Now, the theory is that, or what, it's not the theory, what Scott Peterson was convicted of doing was, it was said that he had created concrete blocks at his warehouse, and when he dumped their bodies, that's what he had used, and this is where the warehouse is.
Yeah, apparently he did. Supposedly had 4 or 5 8-pound cement blocks made from. I guess he used a bucket to make it. And
oh, go ahead.
They couldn't. Apparently, they couldn't find the rest of them, but they did find one that he apparently made for his little boat as an anchor.
And a piece of what was it? Not wrapper. I guess the wrapper of the concrete. What is it called? You know what I'm talking about, with the packaging of the concrete.
The bag.
The bag.
Yeah. Yeah. The bag. Didn't a piece of the bag wash up too?
I'm not
concrete
really.
bag?
I'm not really sure. I'll be honest. I'm not really sure. I
Mhm.
know he had said that they asked him what he did with the rest of the concrete, and he said that he had a right next to his driveway. There was like a muddy part, so he just threw all the rest of the concrete on there. And that's
Hmm.
what he said he did with the rest of the sack of concrete.
Now they never found any concrete blocks or anchors in the bay. Is that correct?
No, what they think is that those blocks were used to tie down the body, but with the movement of the water, the waves, and all that, that it kind of like the whatever you used to tie down the body or the body parts kind of ripped through and cut through,
Mm,
and that's how they ended up finding the torso only. So they think that they
gotcha.
used like at least five anchors, legs, arms, and then the neck to tie him down.
Got you.
But
Got
they
you.
never found him.
They still haven't found him, right?
No.
Yeah, because the autopsy said that she was, it was just a torso, like you said, no head, no limbs, but that they didn't think that the amputations were done by somebody, by a person. That's the word they use. So it does make sense now that you mentioned that if they were tied, if she was tied down in the water and bloated up, as most bodies will do in water, and that's going to want to rise to the surface, like you mentioned, the waves and how choppy it is, that rope, that friction of a decomposing body. I think that that makes a lot of sense there. But there's some weirdness to it though, because this is where he went, right? This is the Berkeley Marina. Now the bodies were found sometime later. I think it was like 5 months later, in April. And the first one that was found was Connor's body. Oh no, I guess I didn't mark it. Where was it? Oh, right here. So Connor's body was found near the jetty, right? And let me mark this real quick. I thought I marked it. And so, not too far away, and his body was not as decomposed. All right, so they're assuming that he was still inside of Laci's body for a majority of the time. Right, Big Blue. I mean, you're the medical guy here. Does that sound right? Where if a fetus dies inside of the womb, does that preserve the fetus?
Mm. And the extent it does for a little bit, but I mean, like anything, everything starts to decompose, man, and then everything starts bloating. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at the case that just happened here in town. The Soto case. She was passed away with the baby inside her,
Mm-hmm.
and the viewing was her and the baby. So, but I don't know with that amount of time what can happen to it.
Right. Well, here's the other thing. There was plastic found around the baby's neck, and apparently Laci's cervix was still closed. How do we get the baby out of the body then?
Maybe somebody cut it out.
That's the weird part about it. And there's also been report that there was a laceration to the baby's ear.
Could have been. I mean, out there in the water, you're gonna find a lot of fishing line. Fishing line can cut right through.
That's true.
Yeah.
I cut my finger almost completely all the way. Like you could see the meat with fishing line before. So
that's true. That is true. You can't. Those things are true. And the plastic. I mean, this is the Bay Area out here. I'm sure people go out there and throw trash into the bay. I've been to the bay out here in Texas. You'll see some trash out there every now and then. I don't see it impossible. Maybe something plastic getting wrapped around. But do you think that that information could help Scott Peterson?
I don't think it'd help because it doesn't say if he did it or not. It just says that somebody might have tampered with the baby, her, before she was dumped in the water.
What do you think? Do you think that
plastic around it? Yeah.
What do you think? The plastic, the laceration to the ear, the cervix closed, body is well. I want to say well preserved, but a lot less decomposed than the mother's torso. What are your thoughts?
I think it's gonna be a big part, but I think also the rest of the things that they're trying to bring up that was neglected by the by the state that they didn't want to bring up also might be a bigger problem, or a bigger evidence to put in. And I think everything should be questioned on that part, especially like for them not to follow up with some of these witnesses seeing Laci or a person that looked like Laci with the same description at the park. That should have been a big red flag that they weren't doing what they could, at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right. And the other thing about this case is that law enforcement were pretty open about where Scott Peterson was the day that his wife disappeared. And that brought up the possibility that maybe perhaps, somebody could have dumped the bodies there to incriminate him, knowing that that's where he was at. This is one of the reasons why, like, for instance, in the Brian Koberger case, where initially they said that the time was at 3:00, and in fact it was at 4. This is the reason why some of these tactics are done, where information isn't as accurate as it could be, because they don't want somebody who could have committed the crime fabricate something to implicate somebody else, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
So they come out and they say that this is where he was at. Don't you think that alone kind of negates the fact that the bodies were found in the area where he was last seen?
How so?
So, like, I mean, you can't, like, how can you use the fact that the bodies were found the last place he was seen when you told the world the last place he was seen? Like, anybody could have gone out there. Like, if somebody would have committed this crime, right? And let's just say that it was somebody else, and they go and dump the body somewhere. Let's just say in some field somewhere, right? And then they see this, high profile case on the media, and they find out that Scott Peterson was fishing in this bay. How hard would it be to go dump the body in the bay, and they, go pick it up from wherever you dumped it and move it to the bay, and that way all attention is in that location?
I see what you mean, but I don't know if that would be something that they would do if they were trying to pin it on him. I think if the body wasn't found for all those days, or how long was it since she went missing? She was found, like,
4 months, I think.
Like 4
Because she
months.
went missing. Yeah, she went missing the 24th of December, and I think she was found in April.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different decomposition. I think at that point, if it was laying on land as it was on water, and I believe everything that showed that it was so decomposed because of the water issue.
Right.
Yeah. So I think they were going to the point where, like, they don't think there was anywhere else but in the water.
Right. No, and I agree that it could have been in the water, but I mean, if you're going off of like 4 months, right? Let's kind of look at this. And You know, if I committed this crime and I go and dump the body, I don't know. Let's see, because it was pretty far away. They were about 90 miles away, somewhere out here in the wilderness in Caswell Memorial Park. And then I find out that, oh boy, was over here. When was it that was broadcasted? Wasn't it that like common knowledge by the next day that that's where he was at?
Yeah, he produced a boat permit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like when you go to a marina, and you don't have tags on your boat, you can request for. It has a little machine there. You can pay like $12 or something like that. It depends. To get a boat permit, and what you do with that boat permit, you put it on the dash. So whenever the game warden or whatever goes up there and says they don't give you a ticket because you have a permit. So that had the time and everything on there. But I believe the time was like 10 something. I'm not really sure.
So
I think it might have been a little bit later than that.
So this is the permit. It's a 2-day fishing license. Or this is actually the fishing license that he obtained on the 20th, in which Peterson filed in the dates 23rd and 24th for his spur of the moment decision. What do you think about that? That he's claiming that this was a spare of the moment decision, but he had gotten a fishing permit for those specific days.
Yeah.
A couple of days earlier. Does that jive with what he's saying? Does that story change to you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely it does. I mean, if anything, he should have just got the year-round one. It wouldn't have been so suspicious, you know. It's cheaper.
Yeah, no, you're right. And the fact that it's these specific days earlier in the week on a spur of the moment type of thing, that's crazy. And this also says that 2 weeks prior to this, so on probably the 6th, he was researching the water currents in San Francisco Bay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about everyone else, but I kind of do that too. I check what the level is at when I go fishing. You know, the temperature of the water and all that stuff. But I guess the bay is a lot different. You know, they got currents, and on the lake you kind of don't.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to kind of have to look at it, especially if you're in a bass boat, because any kind of wave will cause some damage. I just the fact that he got this on those days, that looks worse for him or better, because he could have said that, hey, I was thinking about it. I'd been researching the water currents. I wasn't sure if I was going to want to go golfing that day or go fishing.
Yeah.
And I chose that day. But then again, it kind of goes against everything else that he was telling everybody around him. That he had a gift at the country club, that he had he'd been planning on going golfing. I mean, this is a big red flag to me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, especially the fact that apparently it was last minute change of plans, and no, but he already had a fishing 2-day permit on the 20th. Yeah, that sounds weird. I mean, I can understand the water current thing, like the search of that. I can understand that if he was an avid fisherman.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
for him to say that it was a spur of the moment thing is not no work.
Yeah, it's crazy because just like he just bought the boat. You don't get a 2-day permit when you buy the boat. You buy the year, man. The first when you buy it, it's like, I'm gonna use this bad boy. That's way off. And then I don't see any like pictures of him. Like maybe there is, but like all his fishing gear that he would have had or any of that stuff. Anybody knows?
Well, apparently this boat was a surprise to a lot of people that he had purchased it. He claims that Laci knew about it, but there's no way of knowing for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he did have a lot of fishing stuff, though. I mean, I know he had a tackle box full of fishing stuff. He also produced a receipt, I believe, with fishing lures and stuff like that. That apparently he forgot in his truck.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I had to see the evidence, see what he had at the house, see how much of a fisherman he was, because that's pretty small boat for a bay. If you're really gonna go fish the bay, you normally will buy a bigger boat.
Right.
Those are more like
Right.
river boats, man, or small lakes.
Yeah. No, you're right. So, and I kind of go back. Scott Peterson, during the time that they're looking for his wife, it comes out that he's having an affair with Amber Fry. And let me pull up her image as well. Give me a sec. For some reason, it's not letting me open them.
There's a comment here that says if it was a physical year, he can understand purchasing a 2-day license, right? But I believe it was in December, right? For us in here in Texas, it's August, right? Around the last month of the fishing, right?
Yeah, August to August, unless you pay $10 extra, and then they make it year to year from whichever month you buy it.
Yeah, and you know what they do here, like in Texas, or what they do is they plan. Well, here at least in my town, at my lake they plan to take a kid fishing the day after August, like the following month.
Yeah.
So like everybody has to renew their license to take their kids fishing. Those smart bastards.
That is pretty smart, man.
I was gonna take my kids fishing. I'm like, holy crap! I was to take a kid fishing, and I was like, oh, let's go. And we had it right there. And I'm like, I don't have a license. Let me go get one.
Yeah.
And you see like a line of just people with their kids just waiting to buy licenses.
At least here in San Antonio, when they do that one, it's free fishing for the day, like at the park. Like you don't need the license, but any other day.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that. Give me a second. I'm having some issues with my computer. For some reason, it's starting to act up.
Yeah.
I've been having issues with it for a minute. So Amber Fry is the person that he's having an affair with. How long was he having the affair with her for? Like, when did he meet her? Do you know?
I'm not sure on the how long, but I know they at least met up like 4 or 5 times from what I heard. I know there was more communication through phone than anything.
Yeah.
And I also know that it was one of the times that he met up with her was like for a Christmas like rendezvous kind of thing.
Yeah. And I got it to work. I realized I knew what I was doing wrong. I was pressing a button on my keyboard at the same time. So this is her, Amber Fry, and she was a massage therapist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they had met. He had basically told her, and we're going to listen to these tapes, not next time after that. He apparently had told her that he had lost his wife prior to her going missing, and that this was going to be the first time that, they're going to have holidays together. And that ended up being one of the biggest key pieces of evidence against Scott Peterson. However, he had another affair earlier in I don't know if it's his marriage or in his relationship with Laci, where he also had told that person he had lost his significant other. So it wasn't the first time he used this line. Knowing that he's used that line before, and obviously nobody passed away that time. Do you think that it's just a line he's used that's worked and that he's just going back to, or do you think that maybe he's talking about some things that are going to happen in the near future?
I personally think that it's a line that he used before, trying to get like sympathy points from that certain person, and kind of puts him in that position where they feel sorry for him, so they kind of like tend to put their guard down.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Blue?
Yeah, same thing, man. I think it was a line that he's probably used more than once, and unfortunately, it does work sometimes. In his case, because it's the second person he had used it on.
Yeah.
And that picture didn't look like somebody you just met in November. You know what I mean? That was like a Christmas party picture. So that's pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, I think she came forward saying that they had just met and she found out about the relationship because of the media, and she came forward to talk to police when she found out that the Scott that she was dating was the same Scott that was whose wife was missing, and she was working in with she was cooperating with police, and basically recorded their conversations. And we have it's like 10 hours of conversations. I think it's pretty long. It's extensive. We're going to go through some of the highlights and stuff. We're not going to go through all 10 hours of it, but we're going to go through some of the bigger pieces of that audio.
10 hours is it's like a marathon.
Right.
Everybody want a marathon, a drunk turkey marathon?
We can do that, but members only. So everybody has to pay for that one. If I'm gonna go on for 10 hours, it's definitely gonna be members only.
All right, I gotta get going, guys. Peace out.
See you later, Big Blue.
Take care, guys.
Later there.
So once the bodies are found, right, and there's a arrest warrant for Scott Peterson, and he ends up getting found. And this is what he looks like. And this is, well, next to him also is a picture of body, the torso they found. So
sorry, I thought I was on mute, man. My bad.
Nah, you're fine. You're fine. So what do you think here, Jaime? He's found, he apparently has dyed his hair, obviously. He's also found with a large amount of money, guns, and in clothing and different IDs, including his brother's. And the theory is, or the what's been out there, is that he was heading towards Mexico.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. And I mean, obviously, his lawyers had said that he was going to play golf, right?
Yeah.
Again. Because at that time he was no longer living in Modesto, right? He was living I can't remember where he was living, but he had moved because of all the, all the reporters being outside his house and whatnot.
Right.
And so he started staying somewhere else. And I believe it was, I'm not really sure who he was going to go play golf with, but I know he was going out there and he noticed that a couple of cars were following him, and apparently he thought that was the media, that they were just trying to follow him around. Hence him changing his hair color and his beard and everything like that.
So
but
he's claiming,
it ended up being the police.
Okay, so he was claiming that he changed everything to stop the media.
Yeah, I mean, he said he would change everything to kind of like get away from them. Right. But on the way over there to the golf place, he noticed the cars following him. He called his buddy, or I'm not really sure who it was, that was already waiting for him at the golf course. He said, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it, man. There's people following me, and I don't want to bring that kind of publicity to you." So he ended up just driving off, like taking off.
Yeah.
But that's the story they're going with.
What about the money?
Apparently he took that money. Yeah. Apparently he took that money out on accident and he was going to return it. Yeah. That's what they said, that he accidentally withdrew that money.
Now, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure you can't withdraw that from an ATM. You kind of have to walk into a bank, fill out a deposit slip, sign said deposit slip, give your ID, receive the money, and walk out.
Yeah.
There's a big process to that.
Yeah. It's not like you added, I was like, I'm going to take out $100 and you add a zero on the
right.
on the ATM.
Right.
Like, I'm overdrafting already at 100.
This don't look good. This don't look good, but devil's advocate, right? Devil's advocate. If he is, let's just say innocent, but he sees the writing on the wall, wife found, they've been looking at him the entire time. The world thinks he committed this crime. Like, even if he was innocent, do you think that, in a moment of panic, a person might flee in that type of situation, even though they may not have committed the crime, but they see the writing on the wall where, it's probably they're the fall man if they are in fact innocent.
Yeah. No, I mean, at that time, like, every news station was not talking about him having the possibility of being innocent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was just, I mean, obviously, when someone goes missing, it's always, they always look at the significant other, the husband or the wife, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it was just like, man, like they were throwing everything at him to make him look the worst, which everything he'd done so far didn't help neither. You know what I mean? From the mistress to changing his
Take
hair color and all that stuff, taking money out, even using his. I think he had his brother's ID and his.
Yeah.
So apparently, he said that he was using it because he could get a discount at the golf course with that ID.
You know, that'd be sad if he actually was the reason. But the 15,000, you can't get that by accident. What about the clothes? Was he
Yeah.
what was that about? There's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
But also they're talking about the hair color and everything like that. And there was reports and there was pictures of him talking to police way before he got arrested to police with the hair color already changed. So it's not like he was hiding that. Like, he didn't do it like the same day he took off.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
Also like even also with the bleach, like that was a kind of hearsay. Like everybody was saying that that it smelled like bleach in the home, and the lawyers, his lawyers questioned a lot of people, and they said that they didn't smell anything like bleach. So
well, they didn't find any blood, any tissue, any
no.
sign of s- of something occurring at the house. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what they're thinking, their theory is that he probably suffocated her,
Mm-hmm.
or suffocated or strangled her, strangulation. So that's why there's no blood or that kind of DNA
Mm-hmm.
at either at his home or at the warehouse or on the boat or truck.
Well, the only piece of DNA that they found on the boat was one strand of hair that they believe belonged to Laci. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, they found it on a yellow pair of pliers. Those pliers.
Right, man.
Mm.
I've found my wife's hair in the most randomest of places, man.
Man, I know.
Like
I mean, I take showers and I'm finding hair in my butt. Shit. So, and they're not mine. So
yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what?
Where was Big Blue? Not just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not sold on one single strand of hair on his boat, where he could have transferred that himself, even if Laci had never been on the boat. As long as, if he put on if she washed any of his clothes at any time or just hugged him, before he left that day, there's a good opportunity or a chance that hair would, cling on to his clothing and then could be transferred off. I think that that's pretty circumstantial. Now,
Yeah, I agree.
The innocence, and it's not the actual Innocence Project that everybody thinks. It's the LA
Yeah.
Innocence Project, which is I believe it's something different, right? It's not the same, but they think that there's some evidence that points in a different direction. So Scott Peterson was arrested. He was charged. He was convicted. He went to death row. He ended up appealing that and winning a brief battle where he got off of death row and now is in life without parole because I believe one of the jurors that they selected, they went for all pro death penalty jurors. I think that's what it was. Something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to the jury pool, like that was a whole nother story, man. Like there were so many, things happening. I think at least two jurors got dismissed
Mm-hmm.
for reasons that kind of makes you think like, whoa, why would that's not big enough of a reason. But I think there's some ifs and buts in that one too. Like it's just a whole different story when it comes down to the jurors. I mean, they made that. It kind of felt like I swear, like I kind of felt like these jury, the jurors actually felt kind of in a like celebrity status, I guess you can say.
Right.
Like everybody was trying to talk to them and everything like that. And for them to, I mean, of course, everybody has the right to their own opinion, but for them to state it out there, like what they actually thought, and for them to bring in 2 new jurors that thought the same way they were,
Mhm.
it's just it put me in the position. Well, it made me think like, whoa, that's not right. They shouldn't have been doing that.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot in this case that I think that causes some concern. First and foremost, like I said, they went into that house. They had a predetermined conception that this guy killed his wife. They called homicide detectives within 10 minutes based on his demeanor. They didn't look into the fact that there was a possibility that she did get abducted or went missing or was kidnapped. And there was apparently some sightings of her, several of them. So some of her at the dog park walking a dog.
Mhm.
Another one was her or a pregnant lady being forced into a van. Right. And the other aspect of this, now that, the LA defense, their Innocence Project is looking at, is that there was a burglary right across the street. And the theory has and was and still is that maybe perhaps Laci walked in on the burglary and the burglars kidnapped her, took her life, and then disposed the body in that location after they found out that that's where Scott Peterson was. Right.
Yeah.
So that's been the theory. These are the spots where people said that they had spotted her that morning walking the dog. Is that correct? You sent me this image. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. This is like witnesses that saw someone with the description of Laci walking their dog, which is probably these are the witnesses that apparently were neglected by law enforcement to follow up on.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's right. They didn't follow up on any of them or
Mhm.
on very few of them. Now,
Yeah.
what are these numbers? Are these the numbers of people that had in order of when they saw them, or is the age of the person that saw the
I,
victims?
I believe they have a transcript that says that it has like their name redacted and something like that, and it says that it has a number right next to them. So I think that's what it is. They wrote down all their names and the number, and that's what, instead of writing all their name on those little stamps, I think it's just a number.
Got you. Now I understand. I mean, we have number 61 up here. 60. I mean, I don't see 50s, or there's 50 right there, but I don't see like 55 or 40 something. So I'm not sure where those numbers are, but yeah, that does make sense.
I think probably because of like directions of what they were saying, like, oh, we were standing here, we saw her that way, and then that's probably a number or like a what's it called, exhibit, or whatever it's called, evidence.
Yeah. And let me pull this up real quick. So apparently, what was the day? The 25th, maybe the 26th. Oh man, I put the wrong one. We're all close on our face.
I know. I was like, damn, I can see myself internally almost.
I can see what you're thinking, Jaime. So this brown or orange van shows up less than a mile away, burnt, with a mattress in the back, with red and brown stains that have presumptively tested positive for human blood, and it was
Yes,
never
sir.
looked into.
No, I think it was the following day, I believe.
Yeah, it was the 25th that this was found, and let me pull this up where it's at.
So I believe it was like a mile and a half, right, or something like that, or 2 miles away.
It was found in this alleyway right here, and it was. Let's find out. I mean, this is her house right there. Let's measure this out. Measuring stick. Put it at Peterson house. Yeah, 1.8 miles, 0.08 miles away. So just a little bit over a mile away, the way the crow flies. So not too far from that area, in an alleyway, on fire, this van. Now, the Innocence Project wants to go in there, or the LA Innocence Project wants to go in there and test the DNA off of the mattress and test it to Laci Peterson's DNA to see if there's a match. If it comes out that that's a match, do you think that the wrong guy has been in prison this whole time?
I guess it just depends. There's also like you said, the fact that the neighbor saw the burglary across the street on 516 the Medinas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of van she said they had. If it was this color, then that could be a big breakthrough. But if it was a different color, then it wouldn't. It would still be in the same aspect, because like he could have easily just rented or stolen or something. You know what I mean?
Right. He could have still been the guy that was in that van. It doesn't
Yep,
exclude him from the van.
Yeah, but also the police came out and said that burglary happened on the 26th.
But but who told him that burglary happened on the 26th?
Apparently that's what they came up with. I know the neighbor said that she specifically remembers happening at the 24th.
The burglars were found. They were arrested. They're the ones that say that it was the 26th.
Yeah, and the witness across the street, or the neighbor, saw that a van, or the Medina's being robbed, right? Yeah. The 24th, and apparently what happened is that they came out with the statement that it was a 26 because of when they got arrested, they told them it was a 26, and they went with that. But there was already news cameras on the 26th already at Peterson's house. And
it's true.
Most of the people that, like, the reporters that were there, said that they've been there since like 3-4 in the morning, and they never saw a van across the street, because that's where they will park. Which,
that's interesting. That's a great. That's a great. That's a good observation. That if this happened on the 26th, why didn't the let's pull this up so we can show how close in proximity this is. So this is the Peterson home, right here, and this is the break-in house. So let's put us on the street. Peterson home, house that got broken into.
And the Medinas had just barely left for their vacation the same morning, like maybe like 20 minutes before it actually got broken into. That makes sense, because most of these burglars go around the Christmas season, because a lot of people are either out of town or they have a lot of gifts under the trees. I mean, even here in my town, they tell us don't throw away the boxes of TVs that you bought straight in the trash. Cut them up, because a lot of people, they look in the trash. It's like, oh, this guy has a big old TV screen. Let's go get it. They'll break in. So it makes sense. It will happen the 24th or 25th. I don't know if it will happen the 26th, because of the fact that reporters were already there, and none of the reporters said that a van, or they wouldn't. I don't even think the burglars would go out there if they knew reporters were in front of the.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But then again, Brian Laundrie got past some reporters. They didn't see him either, and they were watching his house.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That is true.
So, the thing is too, though, there's no alleyway. Like, how are they getting onto this property? This is a house in the middle of the block. They'd have to jump a fence or two to get into their backyard. Where are they breaking in at? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know. There wasn't a mention of how they got into the house. Well, at least I haven't seen the report of the Medinas actually, or the police report from that specific burglary.
Now, supposedly, I don't know how true this is, but I was doing my research that one of these burglars told somebody else, while he was in prison, that
Yeah.
they were the ones that were burglarizing on the 24th, and
Mhm.
that a pregnant lady came up to them, stopped them, and that they kidnapped her and then took her life, and then dumped the bodies in the bay where the husband was.
Yeah, apparently it was on a. I'm not sure if it was the visitation or over the phone. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not really sure
the
which one it was,
brother,
but
right?
yeah, something like that. And that the brother like told him to shut up, not like to talk because that stuff's gonna be recorded or something like that. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. It was. You're right. It was a call to the brother, and he basically confessed to committing this crime. So you have this guy that there's the theory that he was there the 24th. We know that cameras were out there the 26th. It already become like major news, right? And we know that they were in a van. There's witnesses that say that a pregnant lady was forced into a van. A van is found burnt up less than about a mile away from where this is at, with a mattress in the back. Now, the neighbors called 911 right away, and the van was, put out. It wasn't on fire for too long. So I know that, majority or much of the DNA evidence is probably destroyed in that van, but it didn't look like the entire thing was destroyed. Why not? I mean, do you think that I think they should be able to test it.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that should be. I don't see why they should fight that.
yeah, no, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get that evidence from the state so they can compare it towards with Laci's DNA.
Right. I
And
mean,
I don't see what it could hurt. The only thing about doing these new motions and bringing up this whole deal is just going to be more heartache for both of the families. They've already gone through so much,
no, I understand that. But if there's
but at the same
something
time,
else that
yeah,
happened, yeah,
needs to be out there.
and if it comes back that it's not Laci's, I would hope that law enforcement would do an IgG type of thing and try to trace who this person is through their their DNA and ancestry, and try to piece if this person is a missing person, if this person was found deceased somewhere. I think that there's answers that somebody's looking for inside of that van, whether it's the Petersons or the Rochas or some other family that we have no idea about.
Yeah.
There's an answer in that van. And I just don't understand why more work hasn't been done to it. I mean, why is that van burning with blood in it in the middle of an alley? And it was stolen too, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't think they had the owner. I believe.
Yeah. So, it's just, it should have been tested. It should have continued to be tested, and answers need to be found. Because at the end of the day, if you take Laci Peterson's case out of it, if you find a van like that in that situation on fire with blood in the back of it, it sure does appear to me that somebody's trying to hide the fact that there's blood back there. And depending on the amount of blood that there is, and given the fact that they're trying to hide it, tells me that something pretty nefarious happened. Whether it was, somebody's life being taken or somebody forced to do something against their will.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter how close it was to the family home. If people are saying that the van was out there stealing stuff or burglars were there and there's blood, apparently blood on this mattress, it doesn't matter if it was a mile away or 20 miles away. It should be, considered part of the case, at least until they get a DNA sample out of it and make sure that it's not Laci's blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it doesn't even have to be Laci's. If it's somebody else's, those are some answers that somebody's looking for. I mean, I don't understand why that wasn't looked into. But to me, if it ends up coming back as Laci's blood, you have the reports, you have this guy on the phone confessing, basically. I mean, I think you really got to look into that. You really got to look into it. I think that should have been an avenue that was looked into a little bit further. I mean, do you think that these two burglars are going to tell the police and be honest. Oh, we were there the 24th, the day that she went missing.
Yeah, hell no, man. I mean, you're talking about a burglary where you get like maybe 3 or 4 years of that.
I mean, if
For
it's just burglary without
Yeah.
hurting anybody,
Yeah.
if it's your
burglary.
first offense, you're probably getting
Mhm.
probation.
So let's say this wasn't his first offense. Let's say it's the second one, and you get what 3 or 4 years, maybe.
It's a felony. Yeah. I mean, it depends also on your lawyer, but yeah,
So,
it
they're
would be
gonna
an enhancement.
they're gonna go in for 3 years, and then they're gonna confess to a kidnapping and trade it in for maybe life. You know what I mean?
Right.
It kind of makes
Yeah,
no
yeah.
sense.
Right. And also, like, I know that somebody asked, like, why would burglars, take a pregnant woman if, trade in a couple of years for another? It's like, well, why are they burglarizing? Let's try to figure that out. It's usually because, somebody needs money to pay for a habit. I mean, that's like 90% of the reason why burglaries happen. It's, something like 10% you'll have your kids out there trying to steal stuff and, like stereos and stuff like that. But the majority of the time, burglars are trying to pay for a habit, one form or another. And if these guys were career criminals, they may have had a habit. And if they were on that habit, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, especially being Christmas, knowing that there's a lot of people buying stuff, gifts, and a lot of people being on vacation, not being home.
I mean, that's what happened to Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. Left all alone. I mean,
don't believe movies, remember?
Don't believe movies, but those burglars attacked that neighborhood because it was Christmas time and there was a lot of people on vacation. So, that's the truth to that movie. The rest of it,
I don't know about the rest of it.
Yeah, but yeah, man. I mean, there's some question marks, right? There was witnesses that weren't looked into apparently during trial, and we're going to go through this during trial. There was a lot of evidence that wasn't handed over to the defense team. There was a lot of objections because they didn't get those type of information. And, I don't think he ever actually did confess to Amber that he did something in those tapes.
No. I know he said he lost his wife December 6th, the same month.
Yeah.
But he didn't specifically say how.
Right.
So that's a I guess he gave him some leeway, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because he also said that people lose a lot of things in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
that is true. So, after hearing, the LA Innocence Project is on this, and again, I don't believe they're even affiliated with the Innocence Project. I think it's some sort of like spin-off, right?
Yeah.
Given what they're fighting for, do you see a case?
I see what they're doing. They're trying to bring stuff up that the law enforcement neglected. Like the witnesses, the van, even to I think Laci's watch that was pawned a couple of months later.
Oh yeah,
by someone. There's plenty of things that that they could bring up and make a case out of it. I can understand that,
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously everybody wants the right person to be in there. Not saying that he's innocent. I'm just saying that, they need to go through all these avenues to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, man. This guy goes out fishing when he's told everybody he's gone, going golfing. He comes back to a missing wife, doesn't call 911 right away, orders a pizza, washes his clothes, eats his pizza once it gets there. And then at that point, he contacts his in-laws, who they in turn contact the police. Apparently his demeanor has been cool, calm, collected the entire time. not one that most people would, I guess, assume the normal behavior for somebody missing a wife. You know, I'm not sure what that normal behavior is supposed to be, but that's where they're at. And then, you know, he ends up having an affair. That affair comes out, and there are tapes that, you know, he talked about his wife and not being around, and that this was going to be the first Christmas without his wife. A couple of weeks later, his wife is missing and passes away under suspicious circumstances, obviously. And
Yeah.
he ends up being found with blonde hair, $15,000 that he supposedly accidentally took out, different IDs, clothing. It doesn't mean, it doesn't sound good. And then you also have these interviews that he's had, one of them in which where the affair was asked about, and he said that he had informed his wife about the affair and that she was, you know, upset, but otherwise okay with it.
Yeah. But also in that same interview, he referred to his wife in the past tense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is before she was discovered.
Yeah. So that also brings up, red flags.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does. It definitely does. Now, could that also have been maybe perhaps how long has she been missing?
At that time, I'm not really sure. I know I don't remember exactly how long, but I know like after Amber came out, or after they brought her out and she said that about the affair, he went against his lawyer's advice and did interviews, invited people into his home, to interview her. But when it comes down to it, like a lot of people act differently when it comes to stress, to different things. Like me personally, I'm kind of emotionless when it comes down to stuff like that. I'm not a killer. A lot of people are just different.
Right.
And just you can't convict someone on their demeanor also, and that's what a lot of people, that's what they were saying about the jurors, that just because of the demeanor, his character, I guess you can say, that he was already convicted from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, his demeanor, his actions leading up to the fact. In fact, a lot of people will say that he got convicted because he had an affair. That was the only thing that he was legitimately did wrong. I don't know about that. Do you think, though, based on the evidence that they had against him, which was the conversation he had with his girlfriend, the possibility that he made concrete anchors in his warehouse, the hair on the boat, what else they got on him? There was witnesses that saw him load something bigger in the boat, wasn't there?
Well, the witnesses that the people that were on the dock that apparently saw him drive his boat didn't see anything big, like a human size, like a torso, right? Or the body of a person. They saw just him and a couple of things, nothing as big, but they didn't see these anchors that apparently the prosecution was saying that he made. And I believe that they think he made 6 of them, and they only have 1 at the warehouse. So, so they're saying that they don't know what happened to the other ones, and that's how they came up with the theory that that's what he used to tie down the body.
Yeah,
I don't know, because even in the trial, like they really couldn't tell you what day she passed away, because I don't know what the guy, the expert, the supposedly expert wasn't like certified, or he didn't have that expertise to say how long or when she died at that time.
Oh yeah. I thought that was the baby.
No,
Because I know because I know they were measuring the bones to determine what day that the baby died, and they had basically said that the baby died on the 24th because of the measurement of the bones. That's how long he would have been at that part of his life, or his gestation, that part of the gestation, that he would have been X amount long. I don't know how you can figure that out. I mean, some babies are longer than others.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest, man. My internet went out. I didn't hear anything you said.
I saw you looking kind of funny. What I
Yeah.
said was, how can you use that to determine the length of the age of the baby? The length of the bone when the babies aren't the same.
Well,
My daughter is 8 months and is as tall as a probably about a 15 or 16-month old.
yeah. Well, the thing is, I think he was an expert at determining the time of death and the decompositions with the bodies, but I don't think he was an expert to be asking about like water decomposition. Like he didn't make no trials or nothing. He wasn't qualified for that, and that's where the defense was adamant about it, that he didn't have those certifications to make that determination.
And so with that being said, you think that Scott Peterson is found guilty today in today's standard of beyond reasonable doubt? Because today there's more things. Are you frozen? Yeah, he's frozen. I could tell he was frozen. Maybe it's me. Yeah, no, it's him. There he is.
Yeah, it's me, man. On my internet keeps. I guess it's windy outside, man. Whenever it's windy like this in this part of town, it's just like the internet just like, hey, you know what? That's enough for you. That's enough for you, sir.
Yeah, I was talking. Yes, I was like, "Are you frozen?"
Yes, I
So
was.
in today's day and age, right, where you have social media and stuff like that. Now, I guess also there's a lot more surveillance cameras around. We'd probably have a better idea of what happened today versus 2002. But based on the evidence that they have on him, the hair, the his behavior, the girlfriend, and the statements, do you think that that's enough to find him guilty beyond reasonable doubt today?
No. That's circumstantial evidence at best.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't, I'm with you on that one, dude. I think there needs to be more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was a lot of things going on with the jury itself, including the judge. But that's going to be on the next episode.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't there also like the prosecutor was hooking up with one of the investigators? I don't know if that's this case or another case, but I thought that was one of the situations here.
I'm not really sure. I'll look into it.
Yeah. Don't take my word on that one.
Yeah. Where's the banner? Where's the banner?
It says Brian Koberger.
It doesn't matter. It works here.
It works. This disclaimer is everything is opinion. We don't speak facts. But yeah, I could have swore that there was something like that, like a relationship between the prosecutor and one of the police officers or something like that. And that didn't come to light. I just think that if this guy ends up getting, his other trial, and especially based on what is expected today, like where's the surveillance cameras, where's, the DNA, where are all this, the signs of this or that. I don't think he gets found guilty today. I think that he gets a hung jury. Now,
that thought, when I came up, watching it, because I didn't watch it like when it was happening. I watched it like maybe like a couple of years later.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, this is gonna end up. It's gonna end up, especially knowing about the jurors and all that stuff. I was like, oh, it's it's gonna end up in a hung jury. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Or I guess hung jury was a lot more. I expected more a hung jury than a not guilty verdict.
Yeah. So at this point, we're gonna take some questions and whatnot. We've started a few things that you guys said earlier in the podcast, but first and foremost, I want to thank Canadian True Crime Buffs. Amazing person, always in here, always hooking it up with the Drunk Turkey Show memberships. Make sure you have your memberships on, guys. That way you can take advantage of that. We will be doing a members only live this week, and you don't want to miss that. It's a little bit more of a what do you call it? A intimate setting, one-on-one type of thing where you guys ask us questions, we respond. I'm pretty sure Jaime's frozen again. And yes. And you guys can ask us questions. We just kind of talk about things. Sometimes we talk about the cases, sometimes we don't. There's been times where we talked about certain things that we are familiar with that maybe perhaps the rest of the public can't. In certain cases, you got to go back and check those out. But you can hit the join button if you're interested in being a member. Thank you, Canadian True Crime Buff, for your support.
Yeah, thank you.
Lorraine B says, I was shocked to hear this case was being taken up by the LA Innocence Project. Were you shocked when you first initially heard that was the case? You're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear something in the background. I'll answer for him. I know that when I first heard that the Innocence Project was taken over, I'm not going to say that I was shocked by it. I really wasn't familiar with Scott Peterson and Laci Peterson's case. As I looked into it, I'll be honest. I mean, my attention was sparked as far as maybe there's a little bit more to this. Were you shocked that they took it up, the Innocence Project, the LA Innocence Project?
Yeah, I was, especially considering that it's been so long since the case ended.
Yeah.
I know this is part of the Innocence Project, the main one, right? It's not part of it, because they have a pretty good record. The 43% of the cases they take, they overturned the.
Is it that high?
Yeah, 43%. It's also 40. Yeah, 43%.
Dang,
I just looked it up. I looked it up earlier. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what you asked me before my internet cut off again. So, but yeah. No, I was kind of shocked. But then, at the same time, it's like, yeah, there is things there that they can't bring up, and there's questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, 100%. Fishing in 40-degree weather on Christmas Eve in the same location her body was found later is pretty telling. That is a huge factor in this. Like I said, there's the guy's actions scream guilty. You know what I mean? But I want to see what the results are of that van. That's what I want to see. If the van comes back that it is not Laci's or whatnot, then okay, one thing. But where I'm at right now, as far as is there a possibility that this could be something different? I think that the only thing that could make me go that way is the results of that van. I want to see what's in that van. What do you think about the 40-degree weather Christmas Eve body found in the same area situation? Oh, there you go. I don't hear you, but I can see you.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good now.
The 40-degree weather.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll answer it real quick before I go. I don't see it impossible, but also, the fact that the body was found there is pretty suspicious. But at the same time, you got people that witnesses that said that he wasn't carrying a lot. That his boat wasn't meant to carry that much weight. Even if he tried to, throw a body with anchors, it would probably tip over. Especially in choppy water.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how does that body get into that water? Unless, check this out. What if this is what he did? He commits the crime and he has the body somewhere else, right? He tells the police where he was at. They go check all that area. Once they're done, he goes and puts the body there because he thinks they're not going to go back there. I mean, it's kind of stupid because it was the place he was at still.
Yeah, that was still. Yeah, that's like Brian Kohlberger sitting in a car that looked exactly like him.
It's possible, dude. Anything is possible. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I forgot that. Didn't they think it was wire tied to the anchors and he used pliers to tighten them? Is that accurate?
Yeah, the prosecution had the theory that he used these anchors and he used the anchors, tied them to the to the limbs in her neck, And what happened is that the waves and the currents, I guess the friction over time cut through the limbs and her neck. And that's why only the torso showed up or ended up beached.
That's sad, man.
Yeah. But that was her theory. They couldn't prove it though.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that, what you said, how small the boat is, the fact that there's 5 anchors plus the body of a pregnant female. I mean, you're looking at some significant weight dumping over the side of a small
5 anchors, 5 or 6 anchors. Let's say 6 anchors at 8 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
Plus the body, plus him on the 14 little aluminum boat. I mean, it will stay afloat. If it will stay afloat, that's not a problem, right? But like the fact that throwing it overboard would pretty much, I think it would tip over, especially in choppy water.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be pretty. It would be something that would be easy to do, flip over that boat, unless he had other anchors in there that was offsetting the weight.
Yeah, I mean, I had a Ranger boat, right? A 15 foot Ranger boat, and there was a little bass boat, and that thing wasn't sturdy at all, man. That thing would move around with all any waves. So I could just imagine a aluminum boat.
Dude, I know. Like I have a skiff boat that's meant to be in the bay, and it still moves around too much. It's not an aluminum boat. It's one of those like 19-foot skiff. And lurking around says, does anyone know if the torso was intact? I thought the baby would stay inside until decomp, so would have to come from her stomach. Just looking for the answer. I don't know where the baby came from. I know that the cervix was intact. I'm assuming that the body decomped through that area and the baby slipped out through. The plastic around the neck and the laceration to the ear. I don't know.
I don't know about that. I'm not really sure.
So we have a question for you. It says, Hyman, didn't he try to sell her car before the bodies were found?
I believe so. I know there was reports of it. I'm not sure if it was confirmed, but yeah, I did hear about that. But I can't say that it was for sure.
Piccolito's grandma says, Pickle Toes grandma. Piccolitos.
Piccolitos. What you said?
I said Piccolitos. That's my dyslexia, guys. That's freaking all these letters are going backwards. Freaking Hyman screwed me up the other day because he showed me a freaking sign that had words backwards and it looked right to me. And it took me a while to see what it really looked like. I was like, you jerk. The bay has high and low tides as the flow from the Pacific Ocean flows in and out. It seems like it's going to be rough, man. It's not something that's going to be like something that you take an aluminum boat out to.
Yeah. I would even, think about it, just take a bass boat out there. I mean, for me at least. But I'm not seeing all these professional fishermen that has those big old boats, and they ride those choppy waters like nothing, man. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, dude. My father-in-law has one of those like huge boats that you can go fishing in the bay. It's like 30 foot or whatever, 28 foot, something like that. And it has like these freaking spider arms that come out and like stick into the ground. And
it's pretty talons. Yeah.
It's pretty cool, man. We get out there and we'll stay stuck. Well, it seems like the rest of the world is moving around us, but we're out there stuck. And it makes for some good fishing. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think they're called power poles. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I have only one, but the one on my skiff boat just goes straight down. It doesn't like come out and like
Yeah, those are the talent ones. Those are nice, man. Those are expensive.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to get one, but I don't think it would have looked. I think it would have looked weird having these long ass spider legs on my littler boat. You know what I mean?
Like a crab.
Let's see. When did they tip over the boat? Yeah, that was what we were talking about.
Yeah, defense came out and showed all the.
Ah,
They showed the videos of them trying to do that, like trying to mock it, like, how they did it, and I don't think they didn't want to allow it. Actually, they didn't want to allow that, you know, that evidence in of them trying to do the same thing with the body and anchors.
well, let me pull this up again. Let me look at these pictures real fast, and let's look at that boat again, because I think this was from that demonstration that you mentioned that you're talking about, and you can see it's like halfway in the water.
Yeah, it's aluminum on the little boats. You could probably, I'm not even lying to you. You could probably grab that front end and just lift it over your head. It's not that heavy.
Oh
man.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not a 14-footer now.
I've been on one, man. It's scary as hell.
Yeah, I've been on plenty of them, and it's not a fun ride. That's why That's why I try to stick with like fiberglass. Fiberglass a little bit sturdier. It keeps you, it gives me more balance and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's gonna be it for us today. I want to thank everybody and appreciate everyone that's been here, all our mods, our members, the new members, our new subscribers. If you're still here watching this and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. We're gonna come back on Wednesday. We're gonna be looking at Scott Peterson's interrogation. He had an interview with police that was recorded. It's about 2 hours long. We're going to go through it, react through what he's saying, and see if we can find some discrepancies in his story. Maybe it's changed over time. We know what he's saying now. Was it the same thing he was saying then? And you don't want to miss it. So hit that like and subscribe button. Also, if you guys do me a favor, share this with anybody you know that is interested in true crime. We want to grow the channel. We want to get back up there. We'd appreciate if you share with your true crime friends and family. Let them know that Drunk Turkey Show is out there and that we do some pretty good work, in my opinion. But with all that said, guys, we're going to be bouncing out. Jaime, you got any final words? Oh, he's frozen. So that's going to be all the final words for us. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.